All right. So I got slides, but I'm willing to, dive into whatever y'all want to talk about. So if there's anything you're particularly interested in, just stop me and we'll talk about it. We'll wrap. Cool. So again, hello, welcome to this community tour here. I'm really excited. So I'm super excited to share what all of this stuff means, CRM plus data plus AI stuff means for admins, developers, architects, analysts, anyone really who builds on top of Salesforce. So I'm sure you've all seen this slide, but Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Base your purchasing decisions on products and services that are generally available. And second of all, thank you all for being here at 7 p.m. your time. And coming to today's sessions to hear me talk about AI and generative AI and data within Salesforce. Y'all are the heart of Salesforce, honestly. The vibrant Trailblazer community is the heart of Salesforce. Y'all are the people that come together to share ideas, who are passionate about this stuff, and build things that people love to use. So thank you for being here. So we got a lot to cover. We're going to start with introductions to the products and concepts that we're going to use today. We're going to dive into some demos, and I'm going to tell you about how to get hands-on. But before we do all of that, let's just level set and go through some of the key terminology that you need to understand to be able to use this technology. So I'm just going to go down a list and give you a brief explanation of all of it. So first and foremost is generative AI. So generative AI is just a type of artificial intelligence technology that takes new content such as text, images, or music, or video by leveraging patterns and insights gleaned from really large data sets to produce novel and coherent outputs. So that really just means that this is a model that could make a video. It can make some text. It can make some make an image based on prompts. And this is really different from traditional predictive AI, which is more about taking old data and then predicting the future, as opposed to creating like new content. One of the most famous forms of generative AI right now is called large language models. So that's your GPT models, right? And for those, you can just imagine them as a super smart student who has read an enormous library of text and as such can now write or talk about anything. That's basically all a large language model is. And there are general purpose models like the GPT models from OpenAI, as well as domain specific models for code generation like GitHub Copilot. And the way that you interact with large language models is called a prompt, right? So a prompt is just the starting line for an AI conversation or a task. It's where you tell the large language model what you're looking for, whether it's writing a story, writing some code, solving a problem, or answering a question. Now, most of the time we're using consumer-grade applications and consumer-grade generative AI, you're just going to ask a question. But in the context of a business, you want your prompts to be grounded on data. So that brings us to grounding. Now, grounding is a process that ensures that AI's responses are not just creative, but also accurate and relevant to the real world. It basically makes sure that whenever you get someone joining there, what was that sound?
Yeah, there was someone joining.
Okay, I was like, what is that ding? But anyway, grounding is just there to make sure that whenever a generative AI model says something, it actually sticks to the facts. Now, the way that most people do grounding these days is through a process called retrieval augmented generation. Has anyone here heard of that so far? Retrieval augmented generation?
Nope, first time.
Okay, cool. So when you dive into generative AI, you're going to hear about this all the time. The TLDR on that one is that it essentially combines the generative properties of large language models of being able to like generate content and text and all this other stuff with the ability to actually look up information, similar to how when you're coming up with an idea, you might go check Google to make sure that your idea actually makes sense, right? And then reasoning. So reasoning with AI is kind of like reasoning with people. It's basically just walking through a problem step by step, using logic to connect the dots from question to answer, like a detective trying to solve a case using clues, right? So now that we have that foundation, let's just dive in and talk about what you can build with AI plus data. And we're going to start by just talking about the Einstein 1 Studio at 30,000 feet, right? So what is the Einstein Studio? Well, the Einstein Studio is a set of builders that bring generative AI capabilities to Salesforce. So you got your flow builder. Now you have Copilot builder for conversational AI, right? You have prompt builder for generative AI. And then you have model builder for bringing your own models, whether they're predictive models or in the future, generative models to Salesforce. So all of these different builders have their own capabilities. And we're going to start with prompt builder. So let's go ahead and talk about prompt builder, right? The plan here is I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to show you what it looks like through a demo, and then we can talk about kind of what happens underneath the hood when you use prompt builder. So when we were talking about terminology, one of the terms that I used was prompts, right? Remember, prompts are the starting line for AI conversation or task. So if you've ever used a tool like ChatGPT, you have definitely created a prompt. Has everyone here used a tool like ChatGPT so far?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you haven't, I really recommend you give it a try. It is so incredibly useful. I use it basically every single day. I got a quick question from Federico. Does it use OpenAI, its own platform, or another AI platform? So we're going to see this in just a second, but quick answer, we use OpenAI and we use Azure. And in the future, we'll have other AI providers that we use.
Okay.
And you'll see that inside of Prompt Builder, actually. But Prompt Builder, overall, it's just a tool that enables the capability to build prompt templates that can be provided in many ways to your user. So think about this as a way to essentially take prompts and then templatize them and then deploy them across Salesforce to solve problems, right? And so there's a bunch of different use cases in an organization, like writing emails, summarizing cases, summarizing objects in general, summarizing records. These are all things that take time or take effort or take both. But by prompting a large language model, you can generate the output that you're looking for and save a bunch of time for your users. Now, one of the key elements of the prompt builder is that it can reference your CRM data, your data cloud data, or even your external systems. And this is super important because without data, AI responses aren't super useful in a business context. And we're going to see that in a demo in just a bit. And the other thing about prompt builder is that prompt templates use metadata, and as such, they can be integrated and used with all the tools you use day to day. So if you use flows, you can use prompts with flows. If you use Apex, you can use flows with Apex, and so on and so forth. Now, Salesforce actually provides 4 types of prompt templates. There's one for sales emails, there's one for field generation, there's one for record summaries, and then there's the Flex template. Do I have any developers in the room who write a bunch of Apex?
Yeah, most of us are developers.
Okay, cool. I'm among my tribe. All right, so you're going to really like the Flex template. That's the one you're going to be using with Apex all the time.
Nice.
So as you can see in the table, there's a bunch of different use cases that apply to each template type. On the right, you can see which input can be used, but even more importantly, you can see which entry point you can use to actually invoke the template. So there's not just one way to use a prompt template. There's actually a bunch of flexibility for your individual use cases. Cool. So I'm going to hop into the demo, but before I do so, does anyone have any questions about anything that I just said just now?
No.
Hey, no questions is good. That's cool with me. All right, so let's hop into a demo. So what I have here is an account. I actually built this one from Trailhead. There's a Trailhead module that lets you have a Trailhead account that has access to all of the generative AI features. It has like the license, and it exists for like 5 days. Highly recommend checking it out. I'll make sure to send you a link, Federico, at the end of this so that you can share it out with the rest of the group if you'd like.
Nice. Yeah, definitely.
But we're just going to get started by essentially solving a problem that is pretty common, right? So in our Salesforce app here, we have cases. right? And what our goal for today is just going to be to essentially create a prompt template that allows us to summarize a case based on some of the case comments that are in the cases related lists. So what I have here are a few open cases. I have this one case here where, as you can see, I have a variety of different fields. I have this one quick summary field, and what my goal is going to be is to use generative AI to automatically fill up this quick summary based on the case subject, the case type, the case priority, and most importantly, some of the case comments that are in this related list here. With the goal being that you have a nice quick view of everything related to this case. And for our example, we're going to tie this to a record page so that anyone can use it. But it's good to know that you could do this same type of stuff with like a flow or Apex code or whatever. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop into setup. And in my quick find menu, the first thing I need to do is just turn on Einstein generative features. So you want to go to Einstein setup under Einstein generative AI. And turn on Einstein is super simple. You just click this button. And Einstein is on. Now from here, you're going to want to refresh to update the options that you can see in Quick Find. Because if I type in prompt builder, it's not going to show up, even though it's activated. So you do a quick refresh, type in prompt builder, and here it is. From here, you can manage and create your prompts. I have no prompts, so I'm going to go ahead and create one. Now this prompt template is going to be called, let's say, quick summary. And the goal is just to create summary of a case based on subject, type, and case comments. Now, every single prompt template is going to require a record type. So in our case, we want to use the case object. And because we're using the field generation template type, we're going to want to pick one of the fields, the field that we actually want to generate for, right? Now, just to show you quickly, there are actually other types. We could have picked flex or record summary, but we don't want to summarize the entire record. We just want to generate some content for a field. So we'll stick with field generation. And we'll select the quick summary. And this creates our prompt template and takes us to the prompt template workspace. Now, the workspace is where you're going to essentially iterate and test out your prompts. Prompting and doing prompt engineering is like an iterative process. Very rarely will you get the right thing the first time you do it. You have to generally test and try different things out. So first things first, you have where you can actually type stuff out here. So you can type whatever you want. You can type, write a poem. You have where you can configure the different models. So to your point and to your question, Federico, we have models from OpenAI and Azure. So you got the GPT 3.5 and the 4s. There's a lot of different models. They have different use cases. So 16K has what's called a bigger context window. It can keep more information in its head. Turbo generally means fast. 3.5 is faster than 4. 4 is better than 3.5. That's pretty much all you need to know about these models, to be honest.
And where would you set up the OpenAI key, for example?
So you actually don't set up an OpenAI key.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, you're using, you're consuming all of these services via Salesforce. So you're not passing through your API key to make any of these calls.
I see.
Yeah. And part of the reason for that, and we'll talk about this more, is that Salesforce has specific agreements with all of these companies to ensure that they don't retain any of your prompts or any of your responses. And that's like one of the differences between doing it with Salesforce and doing it through an API call yourself.
Clear.
The other really important part here is just obviously resolution, which shows what you're sending, and then response, which shows what you're getting. Now, what we're going to do is just put in any record. in order to do any prompting with Salesforce, you have to have a record. So you can't even send a prompt without passing a record. You don't have to use the record, but you need it. So anyway, if you click save and preview, you can see what this prompt will generate. So it'll save the version of the prompt, and then it'll send it to OpenAI, and then we'll see what was sent, and we'll see our response here. This could take a little bit of time. Oh, let's see here. Sales email applied to Service Cloud. So sales email is an interesting name because it's not just sales emails. I think they just called it sales emails. You can use it for Service Cloud. You can use it for any type of email. It doesn't have to be sales. And then I'm just reading all of those questions. Einstein AI is available for Scratch orgs. That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to follow up with you on that one. Cool. But it looks like our API call to OpenAI resolved. So on the left-hand side, you can see what I sent. I can make this a little bit bigger. You can see what I sent. And on the right-hand side, you can see the response. So we got a poem, which is cool, but it's not very useful, right?
Yeah.
So let's actually do something that is useful. Let's solve our use case. So what I'm going to do here is just grab some text that I have here, grab my prompt. All right, so here's the prompt that I actually want, which is going to summarize some comments, the subject, the priority, and the type, right? Create a summary based on that. Now, how do you get the data into the prompt template? That's where merge fields come in. So I'll delete that placeholder, and here I have access to a bunch of different stuff, flows, Apex code, metadata about my organization, metadata about the current user, and then, of course, the case object, right? So in this case refers to this case right here. So I'm going to grab the case comments so I can just search for it. I'm going to grab the subject. See here. So subject. Just delete that. I'm going to grab the, okay, I think I was a little bit overzealous there. Okay, I'm going to grab the priority. And I'll grab the type. You can also use the merge field syntax if you know it particularly. I always mess it up, so I'm just using this picker here. But now this should create a summary based on the case comments, the subject, the priority, and the type. And as you can see, we have our summary here. Now, if you're curious about where all this information came from, you can actually see what the merge fields resolve to. So the comment body is this JSON blob right here, right? And if we scroll down, we can see the case priority is low, and we can see that the case type is electrical, right? So our merge fields work. We got our information. We sent it to OpenAI in a safe way. And if we're happy with this, we can activate our prompt template. Now from here, we can actually use it in a variety of places. We could use it in Apex code. We could use it in a flow. But what I'm going to do is update this record page here to actually use the template that I just created. So to do that, I'll just click setup, page. This is going to take me. And because this is a new account, I have a lot of pop-ups. So I'm going to have to upgrade. Just use this. And now that I can configure my fields, I'll click on Quick Summary. And now what I can do is actually use the Quick Summary prompt template that I just created. So if I want to edit this field going forward, I can actually have Einstein do the work for me and write up the quick summary. We're going to see that in just a moment. So I'll assign this as the org default for desktop for now. It's activated. And if I go back, I should be able to update the quick summary with Einstein. So click Einstein. Einstein's going to run the prompt template for this particular record. And here it is. Now, you don't have to end right here. You could do a lot of different stuff. So for example, if I decided that, hey, actually, I want this to be in Spanish, I could do that. I could say, translate this to Spanish. And there you go. So there's a lot that you can do with Einstein and prompt templates. You don't have to put it in a record page. You can use it with flows. You can use it with Apex code. You can use it in a variety of different ways. And of course, this is a toy example, just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do. But it's pretty cool stuff, I would say. All right. So that is so that's Prompt Builder. And I'm gonna hop back into my presentation in just a moment. But first, I'm gonna just read some questions from Gabriel. Can we use with related records, parent or children to get summary? If we hop back into the resources, you have access to, you definitely, let's see, can we use with related records, parent or children to get a summary based on related records? I may not quite understand that question. Gabriel, do you feel comfortable coming on, explaining a little bit more? I think the answer is yes. Even if you can't do it here, you can absolutely do it you have access to flows, and you also have access to Apex in particular. So if it doesn't show up inside of the case object natively, I know related do, but if it doesn't show up, you can always use Apex past the record and then get whatever you want using flows. And then flows actually work the same as every other merge field. So as long as the flow returns something, if it returns the parent record or the children record, it'll work just as expected. And another question from Aldel. All of these features are available only to standard objects. No, you can do this with a custom object as well. So if I wanted to use a custom object, if I wanted to create a prompt template on it, I could. If I had a custom object, it would show up when I was creating a new prompt template. So for example, I'm going to go back here, click on new prompt template, and any object that you have in here, whether it's custom or it's a standard object, will work just fine. All right. And then is there a governor limit for it? Or can, for example, fill all quick summaries from all cases using an Apex or a flow? There are governor limits. You could absolutely summarize all cases using an Apex method or a flow. Like that is possible. I don't know the governor limits off the top of my head. I'd have to find the docs and take a look there, but there are definitely limits to using it. So all of the techniques that you use to ensure that the code that you write and the flows that you build are within governor limits still applies to Prompt Builder. And in fact, you'll generally want to be thoughtful about how you use it and ensure that you are efficient in your usage. So it's a good question. It's a really good question. I can look for some docs on that one and follow up, send a follow-up email to Federico. Any other questions?
Yeah, just
we have a lot of questions. In the prompt builder, the related record option, that's just for tests while I'm working on the template. When you say the related Option record. Do you mean
the big list in the prompt builder?
like this part?
No, the one below, where it says resolution. Go back to the other.
Okay, let me go here. Yep.
Where it says
the preview.
Oh, the preview.
You mean the preview, right?
In the preview section.
Oh, in the preview. So in the preview,
you see,
yeah, it's just for testing, right? So
okay.
in the preview, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That's just in the preview. Can community license users access Einstein prompts? That's a good question. I would actually don't have a direct answer on licensing. I generally defer those questions to the sales team. I think you need a specific license for Einstein, but I'd have to check into that to see. Licensing, I generally defer to sales.
It's always a worst question about licenses, right?
Yeah.
Every time that there is new stuff. I know. Sorry to put you on a spot, but yes, it's always a thing, right? To know who can access this tool, or if you add it to an app that you have, how you commercialize, right? The app.
Totally.
Okay.
I'd have to follow up on that one, Pablo.
Sure, no problem.
Cool. All great questions. I want to hop back into the presentation, and I'll definitely leave some time. Okay, cool. So I just want to quickly talk about, what you've seen. So you've seen the prompts in action. Here is the Einstein trust layer. This is important to know about, but you won't generally interact with it directly. But essentially, what it does is ensure that you're using generative AI responsibly. So when you send a prompt, we add data to the prompt through merge fields in the case, through dynamic grounding. Then we do data masking. So if there's any PII, any personally identifiable information like a name, that data is identified and then replaced with placeholders so that the data is not sent to OpenAI or Microsoft Azure. The next step is, so with that, we just wrap your prompt with additional prompt instructions to filter out potentially damaging responses. And then the prompt is sent to the large language model that you connect to through a zero retention large language model gateway, so that the prompts and the responses are never stored by large language model provider. When we get the response back, we do toxicity detection to filter out any bias or harmful content. Then we demask the data, which brings the PII info back into the prompt before it was sent to the LLM. Then we add it to the feedback framework, where a customer can essentially be like thumbs up or thumbs down on the quality of the generated content. And then it's all stored into an audit trail so that you can validate how people are using the prompts, the response quality, and generally just like fine tune and iterate on how you're using the prompt template. Cool. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about Einstein Copilot. So Einstein Copilot is a conversational AI that's available in every Salesforce app. So with conversational AI, you can just write a request in natural language such as, hey, update the close date for my largest opportunity next month. And Einstein will literally figure out what that means. It'll find the opportunity and it'll update the close date. So you don't just get an answer when you use conversational AI in Salesforce. You actually get an action. And this is going to make it easier for you and your users to make quick work of anything that's on your to-do list. And unlike classic chatbots that are very, very limited in the conversations that they can carry, copilots can actually reason. So down your request into a simple set of tasks and then find the right tools to actually fulfill every item on that task list, right? And Einstein Copilot is different from other AI assistants built to this point for a few reasons. So first, and this is probably the most important, it knows your data through secure grounding. Within the guardrails of like the Einstein trust layer, Einstein Copilot can generate responses in natural language that are actually grounded on your proprietary data that's inside of Salesforce, Data Cloud, and any external data sources that you connect to. And then even more unique and just as important is that it knows your metadata. So it respects everything in your custom schema, including the permissions that you've established. And it dynamically adapts to suggested action. Einstein Copilot on the opportunity page, it's going to have, suggestions like, summarize opportunity. But if you're on the leads page, it might say show new leads. And this helps you be more productive and just makes Einstein Copilot more useful in general. And then finally, for us developers, Einstein is actually extensible. It's not just a conversational UI. It is actually a platform. You can create additional actions for Einstein Copilot using the tools you use to customize Salesforce every single day. So you can create actions that use flows, Apex code, prompts, and external APIs, which is pretty useful. Okay. So again, it's a platform. So out of the box, it comes with actions from Salesforce, and these are called standard Copilot actions. These are platform actions that are available across all clouds, and it also includes some cloud-specific actions. So these actions can be assigned by admins to a specific set of users. So admins can decide, for example, to give some users access to sales actions without enabling those sales actions for service users. And then for the devs, you can create your custom actions, right? And these custom actions, again, they can leverage standard actions, but they can also leverage prompt templates like the one we just built a few minutes ago. They can leverage existing flows or new flows. They can leverage external services, and they can also leverage invocable Apex code. So you can think of them as, you can think of these custom actions as a way of extending the existing functionality that you've already built on Salesforce into conversational UI. So now that we know a little bit about Copilot actions, the standard ones and the custom ones, let's see how it works, right? So it's a conversational UI, right? So everything Einstein Copilot starts with a conversation. Make a request in the form of a free-form prompt. Then Einstein uses a large language model as a reasoning engine to understand what you're trying to do and then create a dynamic plan to actually fulfill that request. So, for example, if you were to say, try to help a customer return an order or prepare some talking points for a customer call, Einstein would use a reasoning engine to figure out what steps do I need to do to actually fulfill that goal. And then once it has those actions, whether they're flows or they're Apex callouts or their prompt templates, it's going to break down all of those individual actions for its plan, and then essentially ask you for additional information or validated input whenever it needs additional information. So this just ensures that the end results of those actions with Einstein Copilot are always useful and helpful and trusted. So that's Einstein Copilot in a nutshell. But let's actually see it in action. I do that. Any questions here? Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, so let's hop back into our Salesforce org. And here we can see that Einstein, again, conversational AI, answered our question, told us what it can do. We can also ask it about records. So we could say, here, just a moment. Tell me about Edge Communications, which is an account object that exists inside of the Salesforce org here. Okay, or perhaps not. Let's see. Yeah, it's in there. Let's see here. Tell me about University of Arizona. Interesting. So, as is common with a live demo, it's not doing exactly what I want it to do. But let's see if we can get it to do something with one of the suggested actions. Okay. So it was able to pull up some different accounts. And because we're on the accounts page, it was able to actually suggest those actions. Now, when you use Copilot, it creates a plan. And one of the ways to see that is to actually go inside of the Einstein Copilot builder. So for that, I'm going to go back to setup. And I'm going to click on this drop down here and click open in builder. Now here, you can actually customize Einstein Copilot. You can change the different actions that it has available. You can also add any actions that exist inside of the Copilot action library. Currently, we have all of the actions that Copilot can do assigned to Copilot, so we don't see anything here. But in a few moments, we're going to create a new action. So what we can do is ask Copilot a question, and we'll actually see how it like reasons and thinks through and creates a plan. So let's try this one more time. We're going to try and get a summary of the edge communications record here. And it didn't quite do what I wanted it to. Okay, we might perhaps be having an issue here. Let's see, summarize edge communications. Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to this later. But one thing that you should know is that with Einstein Copilot, if you want to build a custom action, it's really easy. Inside of setup, you go to Copilot actions, click new Copilot action. And then from here, you'll be able to just pick a flow, Apex code, or a prompt template. We could pick a flow, search for any flows that we have. And then from here, we can create a Copilot action using the flow. Now with this, we need to give Copilot some specific instructions. So we want to let it know that we want to use this action to initiate a return. We'd want to let it know that the input needs to be a record ID. And then we want to let it know that when it completes the action, it should let the user know that the order has been initiated, processed, or completed. Now, when you're configuring an input, you want to just let Copilot know that an input is required. And when you're configuring an output, you want to let Copilot know that it should show the output in the conversation. So we click finish here, and we have a new Copilot action. Now, yes, I will definitely share in the Trailhead modules, all this stuff. Actually, some of this is based on the Trailhead module. So you'll be able to go through this same process in your own time, which is pretty cool. But within Copilot Builder, if we deactivate Copilot for a moment, we can hop into our Copilot action library and then assign our new action to Copilot. So if we go to this Copilot's actions, we can see that in addition to being able to do all of the standard actions, it can now do our flow action of initiating a return. So let's see if we can get Copilot to actually initiate a return. So what I'm going to do is look for, let's see, what is the latest order? We're going to look for an order. See if we can initiate a return for it. Now, ideally, Einstein's going to come up with a plan and then find the latest order based on the order date. Okay. So here we go. We have an order. So what we're going to do is, let's see, tell me about order. That's order 100. And here you can, of course, see the plan. You queried the records for that order, which is pretty useful. So we can see the order, it was activated, and we can attempt to start a return for it. Now, this particular order may have already been shipped, so it's possible that Einstein won't be able to do it. So here we go. It says that it tried to initiate the return process, but the order's outside of the return window, which is what we would want, right? Which is great. So Copilot can actually, use our custom flow successfully. And that's Einstein Copilot. So let me hop back into our presentation. Cool. Next, let's talk about Data Cloud plus AI. So as you learned earlier today, the key to having success with generative AI is to have relevant data available to actually use when you're building your prompt. And this is where Data Cloud comes into play. With Prompt Builder, you can also add in data from Data Cloud using a process called retrieval augmented generation. In the context of Salesforce, this is called Einstein Copilot Search, and it's currently in pilot. With retrieval augmented generation, the large language model doesn't need to have access to all of the data in the world. Instead, the relevant contextual data is just given to the LLM by automatically augmenting the prompt itself with the relevant contextual data. And Copilot Search not only gives you access to structured data like records, it also has access to unstructured data like the data stored inside of a PDF or voice transcripts. This is super useful because a lot of the data, maybe most of the data that people create is unstructured data, right? And when you're using Data Cloud, all of the same trust principles provided by the Einstein trust layers still apply. So this diagram just shows an overview of the process. All the data that you ingest inside of Data Cloud is stored in the Data Cloud vector database. Now, a vector database is just a special kind of database that combines structured and unstructured data, and then it transforms it into a numerical representation called a vector embedding. So what's a vector embedding? A vector embedding is just a format that makes it easier for an AI system to process data, compare it against a query, and respond with a useful answer. It's all very technical, but the great part is that it's just part of Data Cloud. So now when a user request comes in, if a prompt references data from Data Cloud, Copilot Search can quickly identify the relevant context and then augment the prompt before sending it to the LLM. And this is going to essentially result in well-grounded prompts that generate more relevant responses from the LLM. And as we mentioned, ingestion, let's just kind of talk about how that ingestion works with Data Cloud. So first, you connect all of your customer data at hyperscale. And we do this with an extensive library of out-of-the-box connectors native to Data Cloud and in partnership with MuleSoft Anypoint platform. So use BigQuery, use S3, doesn't really matter. There's probably a connector for it, and you can get it inside of Data Cloud so that you can activate on it. Once you ingest and bring in all of your data into Data Cloud as streaming data or batch data, we prepare it with clicks or code. One of the challenges is that your data is going to be from a variety of different systems in a variety of different formats. So what Data Cloud does is harmonize all your data, no matter the format, into a common data model. And together, all of these data models form a customer profile. And this customer profile inside of Data Cloud is essentially your single source of truth for every single customer. And then the real power of this is that once your data is in Data Cloud, it can be activated all throughout your Salesforce applications. So these activations could potentially be calculated insights. They could be, real-time segmentation. They could be analytics and Tableau. They could be trigger automations with Flow or platform events. And as we just learned, they could be grounded AI. So that's Data Cloud in a nutshell. So you've all learned a lot today, and you can keep the learning going with the Built with Einstein quest. So this is a really great opportunity to build a prompt template with Prompt Builder or an action with Copilot Builder. You can share your use case in a screen recorded video on Twitter or LinkedIn with the hashtag Built with Einstein. Definitely try and complete the quest. There is apparently a prize, which is a Built with Einstein shirt. Or potentially a Dreamforce pass, which is pretty cool. So the link there is sforce.co/builtwitheinstein. Definitely check that out. And I'll also send the trailheads for Copilot as well as Prompt Builder to Federico after the call. But thank you all for your time and attention. Been great hanging out with you. I appreciate all the questions. I love the engagement. Yeah, that's it. I will now open it up for Q&A. I think we have one question here.